Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. And before we get into some updated Raiders free agent targets, today's show is presented by Manscaped. If anybody out there is looking for maybe a new beard hedger, maybe you're looking for something that's going to clean up your shamrocks down there, I recommend getting started with Manscaped, the leaders in men's grooming. Go to manscaped.com, use code Raiders for 20% off and free shipping on the best male grooming products out there. So coming up here on today's show, there was one name that was floating around Raiders, I'll call it social media, a lot yesterday. His name was Devin White. I'm going to give you my answer of whether or not the Raiders should go out and sign White today. I'll also break down some updated Raiders free agent players that they should and should not target because you're going to be freeing up a lot of money. Moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo, moving on from Hunter Renfrow, the Raiders are going to be somewhere around $40 million in cap space because they're going to get an extra $21.6 million on the books today after they move on from those players there. Now, the Raiders had a slow day yesterday, but they did pick it up at least a little bit, which I think they're going to pick it up today. First day of free agency was crazy. You ended up bringing back Ameer Abdullah, Adoree James. That was over the weekend. Christian Wilkins signed a massive, and I'm talking a massive type of deal. Then the Raiders signed Gardner Minshew, if you remember that, to a 2-year, $25 million deal. And then the Raiders also re-signed Calais Campbell, the linebacker, yesterday, which didn't really make too many headlines, but it was still a deal. We don't have the contract details out on that yet. If I had to guess, though, it's going to be somewhere probably similar to Ameer Abdullah. It's also important to mention, like, when you bring back a guy like Calais Campbell, it's not a lock that he's going to make the 53-man roster. They're just trying to fill up some spots as it stands right now. If you're trying to rock and join the party, we're going to be live all day today. I mean, today, I'm telling y'all right now, is going to be an insane day amongst Raider Nation. So hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and when the Raiders sign a player today, we're already live. They're going to be moving on from Garoppolo and Hunter Renfrow. I'm telling you, today is going to be absolutely insane. Subscribe, turn on those notifications. All right, let's talk about Devin White, because yesterday White was a very intriguing player overall in terms of should the Raiders sign him, should the Raiders not go out and target him. I saw a few people that have a few of their own radio shows, a few of their own talk shows say, hey, yes, the Raiders should go out and sign White. And I know that the Raiders right now have a need at the linebacker position. However, though, is this a smart move for the Silver and Black to consider because it is a linebacker? I don't know how much money he's going to end up making on the open market, but when you look at 83 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss, when you look at his numbers straight up, everybody, I think, says, yes, the Raiders should sign Devin White. But my job here on this show is to give you my God-honest opinion. So I do have a take on whether or not the Raiders should sign White. If you want to hear my opinion, you are going to have to wait until after this YouTube ad break. But this is what the Raiders Report's about. It is about a group of people coming together, having an adult conversation, and giving your opinion. If you say yes, cool. Say yes. Tell me how much you're going to sign for him and why you're signing him. If you're going to say no, well, then tell me why you're not going to do that. This is the pinned comment on today's show. Scroll on down and let me know. Should the Raiders sign Devin White? My answer is if Devin White is looking for anything more than $5 million per year, my answer is a no to that. When I see a player like Willie Gay getting a 1-year, $5 million contract with the New Orleans Saints, linebacker in today's day and age is the running back position. Teams do not pay a lot of money for a linebacker. And to me, when I look for an LB, especially in a Patrick Graham defense, I want a guy that can cover, okay? I want a guy that can go sideline to sideline and do a lot of different things. The problem with this, though, when you look at just the numbers, okay? When you look at just the numbers on Devin White, this guy fills up a stat sheet. He's got 83 tackles this past season in 13 games. In 2022, he had 124, 128 tackles, 140 tackles, and I do think a lot of times people just look at the numbers and they think, oh my gosh, Devin White is a insane talent. Here's the thing, though. I'll be real with y'all. I think Devin White is one of the most, if not the most overrated linebacker in the entire National Football League. The reason why he gets a lot of tackles is how good that front four was for Tampa Bay, and he'd get a lot of opportunities to bring guys down. Also, on top of that, people target him a lot. People target him a lot because he is not good in coverage whatsoever, and I do think the PFF numbers support that. Like, you can have a lot of tackles. That doesn't make you a great linebacker. It means, if anything, that your teammates around you are doing the right things, and you're just kind of the guy there to clean it all up. But in the receiving game, man, like, people go after him. I mean, look at these numbers from PFF. In 2023, 46 overall. 2022, 45.5. 2021, 36.2. 2020, 43.4. He has been continuously one of the lowest graded cover linebackers in the NFL. Now, I'm not sitting up here saying that it's a big old fat no. What I am saying, though, is I'm not going to go out there and break the bank, and people that continuously say that, oh, Devin White is this amazing linebacker, I don't really think they've watched the film. I think they just look at the box score, and that's what they're doing. When you look at his coverage stats here from 2023, he gave up a 71.1% completion percentage, which I want to say he was targeted 49 times, gave up close to like 39 grabs in only that 14 games played. Gave up a touch. He did have a touchdown, I want to say. He had 6 PBUs. He did have 2 INTs. But realistically, out of all the years that he's had, from a coverage linebacker standpoint, I will give Devin White a little bit of credit here. He was a lot better this past season than what he's been in years past. But again, my big overall arching point is this. Why am I going to spend potentially $10 million on a linebacker when I would rather you allocate that money to go out and getting a top corner? I'd rather help. If we're going to sign a player like Devin White, I'd rather you save the money and go out and get a guy and allocate that money to figure out a way to bring Khalil Mack, because to me, Devin White is not a need. Khalil Mack is not a need either, but if I got to pick between the two players, I'm going to go get my man Khalil Mack. Coming up next here, NFL free agent targets to avoid and to target for Tom Telesco and for Antonio Pierce. But today's show is presented by Manscaped. And I don't know about y'all, I'm excited for Sunday, St. Patrick's Day. Trying to get the luck of the Irish here. We've had a few people here at Chat Sports talking about, hey, you guys want to go out this weekend? I know this. If I end up going out this weekend, I'm going to make sure that my shamrock is shaved. And if you're like me, go to manscaped.com, use code Raiders. That way you're going to get 20% off and free shipping on the best male grooming products out there. This year, don't just chase rainbows. Make your own pot of gold and groom your leprechaun with the leaders in below-the-kilt care. Say goodbye to your clover forest with Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 and let your confidence shine bright. Embrace the luck of the Irish and join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. Head over to manscaped.com. Use code Raiders for 20% off and free shipping. Again, that's get 20% off and free shipping with code Raiders at manscaped.com. 20% off, free shipping with code Raiders at manscaped.com this St. Patrick's Day. Make sure your little hairy leprechaun or girthy leprechaun is luckier than ever with Manscaped. So to me, I like a lot of the products out there. I think the Lawnmower 5.0 is one of the better products that they have. I use the beard trimmer as well. It does a really solid job there. And then probably my favorite thing about the Lawnmower 5.0 is the fact that I can use it in the shower. Because if there's one thing that Alex just can't stand, it's one, when I leave the toilet seat up, and two, if I decide to shave my little leprechaun and I'm hanging over the toilet and I get all the hairs on the seat. That is not a very happy camper. I don't care how much I shave. If I do that, I know for a fact I'm not getting lucky. So the fact that I can use this in the shower, it's helping me out in more ways than one. Manscaped.com, code Raiders, 20% off and free shipping. So the Raiders are going to have some money to spend today. They're going to be cutting Jimmy Garoppolo. They have to make that move. They're not going to do it post-June 1st. They're going to cut him right away. So because of that, they're going to save money. Yes, you're going to eat $17 million in dead cap hit, but if the Raiders would have done a post-June 1st cut, yes, they would have saved more money, but then he would have been on the books next year for $12.8 million. This is more of a, I'm going to wipe my hands clean. The more I can get rid of Josh McDaniels and everything about McDaniels, I'm going to try to move on from that. Another move that broke this morning, which we knew it was going to happen, Ian Rappaport essentially just confirmed it. Hunter Renfrow, he is going to be cut. I originally thought that they were going to do a post-June 1st cut, but same exact situation here. The Raiders don't want to have any dead money on the books next season. I think that's when you're going to see a lot more like contract restructures with some of the big name guys, maybe like a Colton Miller, maybe like a Max Crosby, maybe also allocating some of that money to some extensions. We're talking Malcolm Kuntz, Robert Spillane, Nate Hobbs, Trevon Merrick, Marcus Epps. But you're moving on from these guys right now, which means you have some extra money. So as it stands right now, the Raiders are sitting pretty at salary cap, but after all of these moves undergo today, you're going to be somewhere around $40 million, which means plenty of money to spend. So what I want to do here is talk about some of the Raiders' needs out there, and there's certain positions that I'm going to target. There's also going to be certain positions that, flat out, you're not going to see. And one of the positions on here that you're not going to see is running back, because as far as I'm concerned, if I'm in the booth right now with Telesco and Antonio Pierce, I'm going to go get my other running back in the NFL draft. I'm not going to spend the extra money in free agency. So let's first talk about some of the offensive tackles here. And remember, we're going to be bringing up players whether the Raiders should or should not sign them. And it's based off of what I've been hearing, what I've been seeing, and I wanted to be able to give my 2 cents on some of these names. First name coming up here is Tyron Smith. He is the top offensive tackle still available in free agency. And I've seen, and I've had a bunch of people ask me, should the Raiders sign Tyron Smith? I'm going to say this. No, the Raiders should not. And the reason why I'm going to say that they shouldn't is because I anticipate that the Raiders are looking for a right tackle. Tyron Smith, when he's played left tackle, has been phenomenal. The 1 year, which was back in 2021, the Cowboys put him at right tackle, he drastically struggled. And for what you're going to have to pay him, there's other people that you could potentially go out there and look at. So Tyron Smith, I'm actually good on him. If you do want to go sign a tackle that's got some upside, I will say Mekhi Becton. I loved him coming out of Louisville. You put him in there, Munford in a battle, motivate Mekhi. Because if you can get a motivated Mekhi Becton, that's a good version. What you don't want to do is sign Mekhi Becton and say, hey, it's your job, because that's what the Jets did. He got fat, he got lazy, he kind of went Trent Brown on him and was not good. If you get a motivated Mekhi Becton, look out. This guy's got tools to be a legit tackle. Another guy that I'll at least bring up here to potentially look at and signing in free agency is Cornelius Lucas. And Lucas was a name that I brought up probably about a year and a half ago. And I just said cheap. Like, if you're looking for more depth, I would look at him as like a Brandon Parker replacement. He can play right tackle. He can play left tackle. He's done both of that. He's never really had over 600 snaps in a season, but due to that versatility and the fact that it would only cost you about $2.5 million, $3 million on a per-year basis, and he's a mountain of a human being, I think it'd be an interesting tackle to look at. Let's go to the edge rusher position now, and edge is still not a big-time major need. I'll still say I'm kind of holding out for Khalil Mack if they do end up releasing him. If they end up releasing him, I promise you this, I'm making a video on it. Chase Young is the top name out there. Young does have that versatility to play inside and outside, but for how much money it's going to cost, I'll pass on him. If you do want to try to find a John Jenkins replacement, if you're not going to just bring back John Jenkins, who had an incredible year, I'll say Calais Campbell. Yes, he is 37, 38 years old. Bro's still playing at a very, very high level, and if you can find another big body man that you can throw into the interior, him next to Christian Wilkins would be a problem for a lot of offensive coordinators. Another edge that I'll throw out there is Kyle Van Noy. And when I say Kyle Van Noy, he's going to offer you a lot of versatility. Like, I know we were talking about Devin White earlier. I'd rather you sign Kyle Van Noy than Devin White, even if you offered them the exact same contract. However, you're going to get Van Noy for half the price. He can get after the quarterback. He can drop back into coverage. To me, with his connections with Telesco, with his connections with Rob Leonard, Patrick Graham, I just think it makes a lot more sense for this defense. Let's go to corner, and this is where my concentration is at today. If you're Las Vegas and you really want to just say, you know what, let's try to get that cherry on top of this free agency. We got ourselves a Christian Wilkins. Let's now go address a cornerback spot, which Antonio Pierce called a priority. And the number one name I'm looking at is Kendall Fuller. Kendall Fuller is the top guy on the market right now. He has a lot of that versatility that you're looking for. If you go out and sign Fuller, to me, the Raiders still could potentially target a corner then in the draft, maybe on day 3 or something like that. Fuller is going to be the most expensive, probably around $14 million. A sneaky name to consider is Xavien Howard. Howard has some ties with the Raiders safety coach, Gerald Alexander, from their times working together. Also, remember, Patrick Graham was at one point the defensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins, and I mean, he's got a lot of exposure there. Yes, the injuries, but can still play at a high level. Another name that I'll throw out there, Adoree Jackson. Jackson's best season in the NFL was back in 2021 when PG was the defensive coordinator for the New York Giants. He's battled some injuries the past 2 seasons, but he has the upside. He does offer you versatility, and I think best bang for your buck out of the names that I just mentioned probably is Adoree Jackson. Let's now go to offensive guard coming up here on the show, and when I think about some of these positions that the Raiders could potentially look at, offensive guard is one. And when I say this particularly, you got to find that right guard. If you want to spend big at right guard, it's Kevin Zeitler. Kevin Zeitler, at 34 years old, is still getting up there, but still able to be a high-level pass-blocking right guard. And that's kind of what I want the Raiders to have. Don't get me wrong. I know they're going to want to run the football. They're going to want to have a concentration on that. If we do have a plan, though, of bringing in a quarterback, he needs to be able to be protected. Kevin Zeitler is the guy I'd spend big on. If you want to go a little bit of the cheaper route, I would just say bring back Greg Van Roten. Van Roten could be that sixth man on your offensive line. He can play right guard. He can play left guard. Just be that backup. And this would be the move that I would make. Think of Greg Van Roten as almost like a, I don't want to say Gardner Minshew type of move, because I don't anticipate Gardner Minshew is going to be the starter. It was more of just a security blanket. And then for the draft, think of Greg Van Roten as that security blanket as well. You sign him now to a cheap deal. He was good for the Raiders last season, 7th best guard according to PFF out of 79 guards. You bring him in on a cheap deal, and if you don't sign anybody better, worst case scenario, you just roll with Greg Van Roten again at right guard. So what I want to know right now is name a player that the Raiders should sign in NFL free agency. We still got some more positions to get into today. I imagine I'm going to get some Khalil Mack in this, and as the time that I'm making this video, he has not been released yet. It still hasn't been said that he will or not. To me, I'm looking at Kendall Fuller, and I'm looking at the Raiders to still upgrade their offensive line. I want to continue to build this defense, though. I want the Raiders to have the best defense in the National Football League, and to me, that's going out and getting an Adoree Jackson and Xavien Howard or a Kendall Fuller. Let's now look at the linebacker position. I started this show today with Devin White. A lot of conversations around this position, and I'm not really 100% sure where the team decides to go. I know that they like a lot of the linebackers in this year's draft, considering how many they met with at the NFL Combine. I'll throw out this name, Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner is still playing at an extremely high level. He can do everything that a linebacker does. I know he's up there in age, but you know what? If we ended up getting Bobby Wagner, I'd take Bobby Wagner over Devin White every single day and twice again on Sunday. Another name to at least keep in mind, Jerome Baker. He has a visit with the Tennessee Titans, I want to say tomorrow. But Baker has always been a good coverage linebacker, and with his ties in previous years with Patrick Graham. And honestly, if I'm Christian Wilkins, I go, hey, Jerome, let's go build something pretty damn special here in Las Vegas. But because of his coverage ability is why I mentioned him on this video. Let's now look at the tight end position. And the tight end position is an intriguing one. Austin Hooper, he ended up signing yesterday. And this is one that I'm not going to get sexy with. To me, the number one tight end that the Raiders should sign is Mercedes Lewis. You sign him on a very, very cheap type of deal. He has followed Luke Getsy everywhere he has gone. He's a blocker. You make him the blocking tight end, which can be your number 3 tight end, and let Mayer, and then you still go out and draft a tight end. Another name to throw out there is Adam Trautman. Trautman, who has some experience in the AFC West, just a blocker. The only tight end that I want the Raiders to sign is to be a blocker. You let Michael Mayer be the athlete that he is. If you're going to target a tight end this year, it's going to be Michael Mayer. You need to find another blocking tight end, which I do think is what this defense or what this offense still needs, and then you go draft a tight end on day 3. Let's look at the safety position here. This is one of the positions that I am very confident in for the Raiders because Marcus Epps, Trevon Merrick, one of the best safety duos in the National Football League as far as I'm concerned. I would like for them to figure out a way to be able to bring back Isaiah Polameo. However, that has not happened. If the Raiders do want to sign a safety, I want somebody that's got some versatility. I want somebody that can play in the slot, that can drop back, that's not afraid to stand up near the line and bring some of that swagger. Jordan Whitehead is one of those players. He also has some experience with the Raiders cornerback coach, Ricky Manning. He also has some experience with Gerald Alexander on top of that as well. Another name to throw out there is Deshaun Elliott at safety. Offers you this versatility as well. Not going to be a big-time, groundbreaking move by any stretch of the imagination, but because of a lot of the ties that he has, and the safety market is always a market where you don't have to spend too much money. If you're looking for just an extra backup player, if you're not sold on Chris Smith, since this organization did not draft him, those are 2 safeties that I would target. And then let's look at the wide receiver room here. I know a lot of people are going to be wanting to go out and sign the big-name wide receivers. Here's the thing. I don't think signing Calvin Ridley is going to happen. It sounds like he wants to stay in Jacksonville, and yes, he brings a lot of excitement to an offense, but also I don't know if I want to bring in Calvin Ridley to Las Vegas. So another name that I've been asked about a bunch is Marquise Hollywood Brown. Yes, the Raiders want to be able to add some more speed, especially when you're moving on from Renfrow. I don't really look at this as being the Renfrow replacement. I don't really look at the Raiders looking to find a Renfrow replacement. They love what they have in Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers. They want to add some more speed. Obviously, they have Trey Tucker. If you want to add speed and you want to do it cheap, Quez Watkins is the name that I would go out and try to get. Watkins, this past season, for the Philadelphia Eagles was definitely a name that I threw out a bunch just because he does have legit 4.3 speed. If you just need a vertical burner down the field that's going to give some teams some headaches, especially in the pre-snap motion. Definitely a name to keep in mind. And then yesterday I mentioned Matt Collins. Matt Collins signed with the Buffalo Bills, so just in case anybody was wondering about him. If you want to give me a follow on social media, it's at Mitchell Renz 365, literally everywhere. You can hit me up there. I got a really, really cool video today from a viewer that was watching our show all day yesterday at work, and I said this yesterday because I meant it. I love when people send me messages like, hey, man, watching the show. I got one today from Mark Anthony Soltero. He was like, hey, been listening to you and Chugs for the past 2 days at work. Believe it or not, those are the type of messages that can get you through long, long work days. I love what I do, but you guys already know. We don't take any days off here. So, again, today's going to be an insane day for the Raiders. There's going to be a lot of news, a lot of stuff around the NFL, around the Las Vegas Raiders, a lot of different stuff coming up. I do want to give a shout-out to yesterday's MVP, Ryan Campbell. I'm rocking his jersey today. And if you guys want to party, if you're at work, whatever you're doing, all I ask is this. Even if you're like, Mitch, I'm not doing a lot of the shenanigans with you. It's all good. At least pull up, listen to us, and I want you to stay up to date because today is going to be a crazy, crazy day in the National Football League.